And what type of work were you doing at Black Mountain?
My paintings then were, well, it's hard to describe. Had they had images, but they had some abstraction, just as my work later did. They were images too. The little crumpled piece that's going to be in the exhibition that's from Black Mountain Time, it's called Secrets, and it was actually, I was having a hard personal time, and so I would, part of me wanted to be a writer, and I wanted to be a painter, and so I was writing personal feelings about the state I was in, and but they were secrets, and this piece is called Secrets. So I wrote these things and painted them, and then tore them up and collaged them back together. So they're potent. You can't read them, but you feel.
When you were making the blueprints with Bob, how did that come about?
Well, when I was a kid, we made blueprints of leaves and things like that. Children did that. And
I did it too.
Yeah, with the sensitized paper and the leaves and so on. But on the island, on my parents' island, where we were spending summers, we just thought big. So you got the blueprint paper instead of the first blueprint we made. My little brother, who was at the time maybe 6, we used him as our victim because we could fit him on a piece of paper. So that was the first full person image, was with my little brother. And then we just went on to use it to think. We loved the concept of it being an actual image, but you're working with it and composing with it the way you would with your work. It just seemed very exciting. So we made a lot of these blueprints, and then they got around. We showed on Museum of Modern Art, show on abstract photography and Life magazine showed them and so on. But it was a full collaboration. Actually, I first had the blueprint paper and the leaves, but together we developed making this thing grow into something. I love books, and I love words and writing, and my father was a writer, and I always was read to as a child. And my father wanted me to be a writer and told me I wrote very well, and I just, at that point in my life, just decided painting was for me. And now to be able to work on books and to be able to balance verbal form with the visual form has been a wonderful challenge and a real puzzle. And also because, for instance, books are, they're just so special. They're really artworks and in fine art mediums. And so it's just been a very beautiful part of my life. And also the thing that's so different about books is that it takes place over time. I mean, if you make a painting, there it is. And of course, with my being interested from day one in expressing time in my work, the concept of following the thread of a piece of writing over time and turning the pages and actually having the piece take place over time is very challenging and beautiful to me. Okay, well, this painting I call Wind's Havoc, and it was a very pivotal painting for me because I had been working with the image of the horizon, but I wanted to, it's the first painting where I worked with the grid, really, with the horizon, and the crumples in this image stand for the wind and the sea and motion and so on. And somehow this painting happened, and from that, so this thing has stayed with me, and I don't even think about it. I thought about it when I put up the painting the other day. it stuck with me without my thinking about it. And so many of my paintings in the many years since have taken this grid form, and also the crumpling is another expression of time and its movement. And so it seems a very important painting to me. These are watercolor and ink and drawn images after the turn of the century photographer Edward Muybridge, who was expressing time in increments of photographs. And I drew from those because they moved me, that you saw these little seconds of the movement of time. I find them very beautiful, the photographs, so I love to work from them. And I've worked from them for many, many years, and I continue to, and it takes different forms.
Do you actually use his photographs as a basis for the work?
Absolutely. Okay, well, these are our little bouquets of grasses that come. I've been, first of all, I started doing portraits of blades of grass in Stockholm because I didn't have a studio. I'd go out in the park there, Kronobergs Park in Stockholm, and draw from blades of grass. And to take these humble forms and make very intensive small paintings of them. And these are later manifestations. These are little bouquets of grass. And because I came back from Stockholm with grass portraits, Vincent told me that the beginning of the great book, Masnavi by Rumi, began with the words, "Listen to the reed," and that this stood for the wind instrument that's played to accompany Persian poetry. And so I was able to work with the beginning of the Masnavi. Vincent has done a series of the stories from the Masnavi, each with different artists. And so the little grass portraits inspired this book. And then they went on to grow into a great variety of works, which eventually became fields and works. Yeah, these are part of the fields. This one takes place on 3 plains here. These are all cut grasses cut out and collaged on here on 3 levels. And they also go from, instead of day to night, they go from near to far. They're expressing the perspective by the darkening, and also by the fact that the grasses grow smaller. And the fields have many forms. This one feels to me very lively and active, as if the wind is in the field, and all of the colors of day, night, morning, everything. And it's kind of, I like the movement in it very much. Okay, this drawing of ferns, I'm responding to the spiral form that ferns take. This little section here shows you the little spiral.
Fiddlehead.
And so the whole drawing takes a spiral form. Start with a little square, and it just flows around this way. For a couple of years, I was really working a lot with these, like the moons and the blue fold here, and different color pieces where I was interested in these intensive colors, and also in using the folds in the canvas were, to me, a dialogue with the Renaissance folds, and the figures in Renaissance painting. I always really loved the forms of the draped fabrics on the figures and so on. And so that's partly in my mind. And I don't know, I can go back and forth between intensive colors and subtle colors and drawing. Well, I work in various times with the images of the moon. I did a painting way back when called The Faces of the Moon, which crumpled black and white canvas images went across in a big arc that's very like the arc of the curved horizon across the sky, and the moon just kept coming into my paintings one way or another. And these formal moons, I just loved the way they just fell into that fold. And, before this orange one, I had made a single deconstructed orange and blue chair, which I gave to my son. He liked it a lot, and I was out visiting him in Oregon, and I saw it on the wall framed, and I thought, wow, I like this. And so I went back to New York and began making all these different variations on it. It's the same old grid and the same taking things apart and putting together, doubled, and so on. But I guess I get tired, so I want a chair. And I had this concept of working with my son to make a photographic piece, and he made this first small one. He did all the photography for it about a year and a half ago in Oregon, and borrowing everybody's chairs. And so we planned on making either a diptych or a triptych in a large scale of the shuffled chairs with some person parts, not as many as in this portrait. It's so interesting that it's so related to the other gridded pieces, and also the shuffled grids where you borrow back and forth. But it just took that other form.
Would you talk about the relationship to Matisse and also the relationship to Cubism?
Well, of course, Matisse is I consider him my Papa Matisse, my art papa. And I just love Matisse's work. And you have this feeling if you take yourself on a walk through the museum that there's so many things that really move you and that you have to think about so deeply and that mean so much to you. But with Matisse, I always have this feeling that I wish I had made that painting. That's a little different. It's a very particular relationship, but it's a real admiration for that moment. And also, I always feel in my work that I, for many years, have wanted to defy the constriction of the rectangle, and I do that by cutting and by crumpling or tearing or whatever. But the cutting, when I'm drawing with the scissors, I feel in a way that it's sort of like pushing out of that constriction of the rectangle. And I guess that's why in my work it always sort of lies a little bit between painting and sculpture because of that. Just not wanting to leave it like that, wanting to have it push out in space or have a different form to it. It's been an impulse for me from the very start. I think painters have always been wrestling with similar perceptions and concerns. It just takes a new form.